Rush of the Long Shadow. Jeffrey was a blog writer fascinated by paranormal events. For years he had been chasing various horror legends. This time, his target was the terrifying stories surrounding Slenderman. One of the forests where Slenderman was reportedly seen for the first time was near the town of Blackwood in the state of Wisconsin. Before arriving, Jeff had read about missing children, tourists who vanished without a trace, and even people who ended up in psychiatric hospitals due to strange experiences. But he believed all of it was just a myth. At midnight, armed with his flashlight and camera, he set off toward Blackwood Forest. His footsteps crunched over leaves and twigs. The forest was misty, and an eerie silence filled the air. Even the usual chirping of crickets was absent. Suddenly, a long, slender shadow appeared in the beam of his flashlight. Jeffrey held his breath for a moment. He assumed it was just a fox or a deer and moved forward, but his heart was pounding. He quickened his pace, but it felt like he wasn't moving at all. Then, from behind the trees, a tall figure emerged. A black suit, unnaturally long arms, and a faceless head. Jeffrey froze. His entire body felt paralyzed. He wanted to move, but his feet were stuck to the ground. A whisper filled his ears. "It's too late to leave." His flashlight slipped from his hand. A sudden force knocked him to the ground, his vision blurred into darkness. The next morning, officers from the Blackwood Police Department found him at the edge of the forest. He was breathing, but his eyes were empty, as if he saw nothing. When asked what had happened, he repeated only one sentence. "He saw me, and now I see him too. Long Shadow too." Jeffrey was admitted to the hospital. The doctors said he was suffering from severe psychological trauma, but his friend Mark felt that it was more than just trauma. Jeffrey would stare out the window every day, fixating on a single point, without saying a word. No matter how hard the doctors tried, they couldn't get him to speak. However, strange noises came from his room at night. One time, when Mark entered his room, he heard Jeffrey whispering something. "He is here. He is everywhere." Mark shuddered and stepped back. Seeing his friend like this was deeply unsettling, but knowing Jeffrey's fascination with the paranormal, he thought that maybe his friend had just been scared to the point of losing his mind. One night, Mark decided to read Jeffrey's notes. He found the last entries written before his friend had gone to Blackwood Forest. "Slenderman is not just a myth. He is not there when you look. But the moment you feel him, it's already too late." A cold breeze swept through the room. The windows were closed. Mark felt an eerie sense of unease. Suddenly, when he glanced at the mirror in the corner of the room, for a brief moment, he saw a tall, dark figure reflected in it. His breath caught in his throat. He rubbed his eyes, but it was gone. However, from that moment on, Mark started feeling different. He sensed an unseen presence watching him everywhere. At night, while walking down the streets, he saw long shadows under the streetlights. Whenever he looked at his reflection in the mirror, he felt as if a dark silhouette was standing beside him. As Jeffrey remained in the hospital, his condition worsened. One night when the doctors checked his room, they found that he had vanished through the window. He had been on the 4th floor. No trace, no sound. He was just gone. And now Mark understood. Slenderman didn't just destroy those who saw him. He lived inside their minds. The Silent Watcher. Emily had always been drawn to the forest. As a child, she'd spend hours exploring its depths, convinced that there was something magical about it. But now, as an adult, her love for the woods had turned into a quiet unease. Every time she ventured near the trees, a strange sensation followed her. Like someone, or something, was watching her from the shadows. It started a week ago, when she had gone for a walk late at night. She had always enjoyed the peace of the woods under the moonlight, but this time it felt different. The wind was still, the air thick with an unnatural silence. The usual sounds of rustling leaves and chirping insects were absent. Then she saw it. A tall, thin figure standing at the edge of the trees, its featureless face turned toward her. Emily froze. Her heart hammered in her chest, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The figure didn't move. It simply stood there, as if waiting for her to make the first move. After a long moment, she turned and ran, her feet pounding the dirt path beneath her. The woods felt endless that night, the shadows stretching and twisting with every turn she took. When she finally made it home, she locked all the doors and windows, but the feeling of being watched never left her. Over the next few days, Emily tried to convince herself it was just her imagination, a trick of the mind. But each night the sensation of being followed returned. She started seeing glimpses of that same tall figure, always at the edge of her vision. Her sleep became restless, her anxiety growing with each passing day. One evening she went back to the woods, determined to face whatever it was that haunted her. She walked deeper into the trees, her every step echoing in the quiet. She could feel the presence before she saw it. A cold, oppressive energy that seemed to press against her from all sides. Then she saw him. Slenderman. His tall, featureless form stood motionless in the distance, his long limbs unnaturally stretched, his head tilted as though observing her every move. Emily's legs shook, but she forced herself to approach, each step heavier than the last. But as she got closer, the figure didn't flinch. It didn't react. It simply stood there, staring into her soul with its empty, dark presence. The ground beneath her feet began to tremble, the trees swaying violently. She stumbled back, but someone, was behind her. She turned around, but there was nothing there, only darkness. The last thing she heard before everything went black was the whisper of a voice. Quiet, but unmistakable. You can never leave. Emily was never seen again. The woods remained quiet, as if nothing had ever happened. But the tall figure continued to watch, waiting for the next to wander too far into his domain. The silent watcher, one you two. Emily's disappearance sent ripples through the small town. Search parties combed the forest for weeks, but there was no trace of her, no footprints, no clothing, nothing. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Her best friend Daniel refused to accept that she was simply gone. He knew Emily better than anyone. She wasn't the type to run away, and she certainly wasn't the type to get lost in the woods she had explored her whole life. Something had happened to her, something no one else wanted to admit. Late one evening, Daniel found himself standing at the edge of the forest, the same place Emily had last been seen. The trees loomed in front of him like silent sentinels, their dark branches stretching into the sky. He hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath and stepped forward. The deeper he walked, the quieter everything became. There was no wind, no rustling leaves, no sounds of insects or animals. Just an unnatural stillness that pressed against him like a weight. Then he saw it. A figure stood among the trees, impossibly tall, its form barely visible in the dim moonlight. Daniel's breath hitched. He knew the stories, the whispers about Slenderman, but he had never believed them. Not really. But now, standing here, he felt it. The presence. It was like an invisible force reaching into his mind, pressing against his thoughts. Then he heard something, a whisper. "Help me." Emily's voice. Daniel's pulse spiked. He turned, searching the darkness, but there was nothing there. Only shadows. He took a step back, his heartbeat hammering in his ears. The figure in the distance remained still, but somehow Daniel felt it was closer than before. "Emily?" he called out, his voice barely above a whisper. Silence. Then, the whisper again, this time, right behind him. "Run!" Daniel spun around, but the moment he did, everything changed. The forest seemed to stretch, the trees bending and twisting unnaturally. The air felt thick, suffocating. His vision blurred. Panic surged through him, but his legs wouldn't move. It was as if invisible strings held him in place, and then, for the first time, the figure moved. Slenderman stepped forward, his long limbs unnaturally fluid, his faceless head tilting as if studying him. Daniel wanted to scream, but no sound came out, and then, darkness. The next morning, the townspeople found Daniel's car parked at the edge of the woods, the driver's door still open, but of Daniel himself, there was no sign. Just like Emil. The search for them both continued, but deep down, everyone knew the truth. The forest had taken them, and somewhere in the shadows, Slenderman was waiting for the next one.